lash and a rope and blade. I got silver in me pouches and I follow a rope and trade. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. As I went down to Glasgow City, Nancy whiskey I chanced to smell. Well, I walked in and I sat down right there beside her. For 7 long years now I've loved her well. Oh! Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. Kissed her, the more I liked her. The more I kissed her, the more she smiled. And soon I'd forgotten my poor mother's teaching, for Nancy whiskey had me soon beguiled. Here we go, well, whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, oh. As I awoke in the early morning, to slake my thirst it was my need. Well, I tried to arise, but I was unable, for Nancy whiskey had me by the knees. Hop, hop. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Come on. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, oh, here we go. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, oh. So come ye weavers, ye Carlton weavers. Come on ye weavers, where'er you be. Beware of whiskey, Nancy whiskey, for she'll ruin you like she ruined me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Come on. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy, ho. One more time now. Whiskey, whiskey, Nancy whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey.